I did something terrible. I'd found the official English translation of the current Russian constitution, and I acknowledged it. And I said, I'm not going to read it right now. I would prefer to meet somebody for whom Russian is a first language that would be able to share with me their understanding, and we could go through it together. Then we could talk about the American Constitution, which I was studying on my own, as well as the Texas Constitution and the constitutions of other states. It's one of these things I've found fascinating for a considerable amount of time. It actually started when I was in Honduras. I found a book. Now, so ironically, I have a version of that book with me right here. It was by a person who was a constitutional scholar. Let me tell you, it was the first time I had ever read the entire Constitution all the way through. I looked through some of the things he said in that book, including what he said about the Electoral College. I found it to be very important. It inspired me. I had this thing that after that, when I would go to apply to a job someplace, I would look at where their business situs was. Where were they headquartered? And then I would see what was the terms of the contract. What was the terms of whatever the agreement was they were trying to get me to sign in order to work with them? And I would compare it with the constitution of the state wherein they were headquartered. In this way, I came to read the constitutions of several states and be able to have them as an understanding. Each of them has their own character. It's actually something else. If you're talking about some form of essence, it comes from having an identity of and as a part of a state. Reading thoroughly through the constitutions of the respective states gives you a different understanding of all the different facets that are available in the compact that is the federal government, based upon the specific manners in which states address matters related to the people within them. I haven't read all 50 constitutions. I'm not going to lie. I haven't even read 10, but the ones I have read, I've read very comprehensively and understand they have a very significant impact. It's important to know that parents were born in the states of Virginia and Maryland. And Maryland and Virginia have very distinctive constitutions, very distinctive priorities in terms of understanding where and how they define the people. But I said I did something terrible because I've not read the Russian Constitution. I had something that happened, however. I found a book one day. It was published in 1977. I never even knew such a thing existed. It said it was called The Soviet Legal System. The book, presumably, is a translation of primary source materials regarding the Constitution of the USSR, as well as specific aspects of law under the Soviet Union, including a discussion, or rather a primary source reference for the manners in which the system of jurisprudence in the Soviet Union operated. It's not the same as it was in the United States. They have something called the Comrades Courts. At least that's what it says. Talks about people's control, mass legal education. It talks about Soviet federalism, instruments, organs, criminal law, and the preservation of public order, civil rights, and socialism. These are the things it discusses. Cooperatives as supplementary agencies, torts and social insurance. Now, this is more than one version. This is laws of probate and estate administration, inheritance, treatment of a youthful offender. Let's see, this is a problem. I didn't pay for this book. It was for sale, but I didn't pay for it. See, that day I was $1 and some change short. I had to get it that day. It was very important. I asked an older woman if she had $1 I could borrow. She didn't have a dollar. I asked it, man, you have a dollar I could borrow? He didn't have a dollar. I asked another person, third person, you have a dollar I could borrow? Didn't have a dollar. I don't have any cash on me, I'm sorry. So I went to leave. Right as I went to leave, a vehicle pulled up and a young woman got out of the driver's seat. And I thought to myself, do you have a dollar? Do you have $2? I asked her by this time. I asked her, do you have $2? And she reached into her pocketbook. She pulled the two. I said, are you over 16? And she looked at me and she said, yeah. She gave it to me. I went inside and I opened the book. And then I took the book and I put it in my bag and I left. Now see, none of those adults had the money to pay for the law. I took that $2, I bought it back. I put it somewhere. I put it somewhere because I said to myself it was not appropriate to spend it. I wouldn't do that. I'll take the hit. If you're going to blame me for stealing a law book, I'll take the hit. The problem is, what I came to understand after reading this book is I wasn't supposed to pay, and neither was she. Not like that. That's not how it works. Now, I took the information connected to those $2. A very important $2. And I got this book here. And I'm going to start reading it. Yesterday I made a voice file. I started with page 55. Why? Because there are people that are very concerned about their 55 right now. You know what the 55 is in here? Talks about the Constitution of the USSR, December 5th, 1936. The Supreme Court of the USSR is the highest judicial agency. The Supreme Court of the USSR is charged with the supervision of the judicial activities of all the judicial bodies of the USSR and of the Union republics within the limits established by law. Judges are independent and subject only to the law. I'm not giving you the metrics. Why? Because of what it says next. See, we're going to have to make some clarification on what you consider to be judicial statistics. Is it just the number of offenders you're able to bond and then incarcerate? I contend there's other statistics. And those statistics need to meet a standard. In some way, shape, or form, for the last 4 years, I've been tracking those statistics. It's very alarming what they reveal. I believe in some manner, way, shape, or form, at least in the English interpretation of this book, just from what I've seen so far, there was a very comprehensive understanding of judicial capital. This is something I've not heard anybody else say in this way. It's something that came to me, a consideration of a way to contextualize what my concerns were upon my first venture into formally trying to engage with judicial process. By the way, at a time when I was not, and did not understand myself to be a respondent or a petitioner or a plaintiff or defendant in any actual proceeding, but rather somebody that had been requested to provide a professional consideration in regards to outstanding concerns specific to ethics regarding members of the State Bar Texas, or as it was first identified to me, the Texas Bar Association, right? It's been a considerable amount of time. I have not been shown much collegiality. Actually, I haven't been shown any. And then, of course, there's the difference between the state and federal jurisdictions and the understanding that, without really making a big deal about it publicly, that there were changes to considerations of bar affiliation within the state of Texas, including one that would attempt to pool new applicants for bar membership into a examination process involving more than just the state of Texas, without first addressing outstanding concerns regarding the bar itself in Texas, the State Bar Texas, the Texas Bar Association. And so, these are the things that need to be considered. Did somebody think that maybe a beautiful young girl born in 1977 might be the kind of thing that maybe one day would grow up and be able to carry on the legacy? I'm going to close this with saying something that I recounted to myself. It has in here, which we'll get to, is consideration of a joint sitting. It also talks about legislative initiative, the right of legislative initiative. Now, I don't know if these are legal concepts that are common in the United States. I've not encountered them, including in all these other books I have here, right? So I'm very eager to learn more about these concepts, but it brings up a very concerning situation I had remarked just within the last 10 days about what it meant for Justice Jackson to return from his participation in the Nuremberg Tribunal with an understanding that there was a comprehensive anti communist movement in the United States, and that he would often reflect on his experiences at Nuremberg as a justification for having the certain kinds of opinions and perspectives he did when he was in the position he was on the Supreme Court of the United States. And what would he have thought? Was there just cause for other members of the judicial branch of government, or even within non judicial branches of the government of the United States, to challenge him for permitting himself to be considered on par with what was supposed to be his corollaries in the Soviet Union in an official proceeding? You know, this is a very just, I believe, consideration, regardless of whether or not you agree with it. There's no reason not to actually take that into consideration. What does it mean that he was given equal consideration on par with himself, with an understanding he understood himself to be one of the most important legal points of reference in the United States at the time when he agreed to be on a tribunal with members of the Soviet Union? Think about it in another perspective. What does it mean that the justice of the Supreme Court the United States sent to the Soviet Union did not obtain a law degree? He was not a doctor of jurisprudence. That is not how he entered the law, and that is not how he worked with and through the law. The corollary to those Soviet judges was Justice Jackson. What does that mean about the standard that has been carried on and maintained ever since when it comes to a legal perspective on the Soviet Union? I contend this is important. It also brings up a consideration right now of who actually had what obligation.